Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys. I found this interesting article dated February 8th, 2013 by Tracy Egan Morrissey. The world has become increasingly aware in the last decade or so that Scientology isn't just part of a punchline about closeted homosexual celebrities, but an actual cult that believes that humans are reincarnated aliens and uses mind control, physical abuse, and indentured servitude to not only keep its members in line, but keep the entire operation running. This week, Jenna Miscavige Hill, a third-generation Scientologist and the niece of David Miscavige, the church's leader, has released her tell-all memoir, Beyond Belief, My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape, of growing up inside the organization that isolated her from her family, robbed her of an education, and put her to work full-time, at hard labor, when she was just 7 years old. When she was just 7 years old. But nobody knows what's going on, right? It's one thing to think that Scientology is weird, gawk at its bizarre relationships with celebrities, and be horrified by stories from ex-members, SPs. But it's another to be confronted with the abuse of little children who were brought into the religion or born into it by their parents, and forced into a life of oppression, severe punishments, and psychological control that borders on torture, as Miscavige Hill describes in her book. As far as brainwashing, miseducating, financially defrauding cults go, Scientology is right up there with the FLDS in its treatment of children. Interestingly, Miscavige Hill's co-author was Lisa Pulitzer, who also co-wrote Stolen Innocence with Alyssa Wall, who escaped the FLDS and became the star witness against polygamous sect leader Warren Jeffs at his trial for accomplice to RAPE. Of children, by the way, you guys. Warren Jeffs is in prison now. And all the mind-controlled slaves are still following him. There's an excerpt from Miscavige's book on Salon about Scientology's infamous Celebrity Center. It's really the only time in her memoir that she drops any famous people's names, so of course that particular chapter would attract attention. There isn't anything there that we hadn't read about before, but did establish the stark contrast in treatment that the celebrities experience compared to the members of the Sea Org. This is from her book. The accommodations were gorgeous, and the beautiful grounds made the experience enjoyable. Everything was tightly controlled and orchestrated, and if the celebrities themselves took things at face value, they'd simply see the act and never witness what went on behind the curtain. There was never risk that they would get exposed to child labor or something similar that the church didn't want them to see. Sea Org members at the Celebrity Center appeared happy because it was their job to do that, so celebrities wouldn't know from talking to them or watching them whether they'd been paid their $45 that week or if they missed their families. Now, too, who was talking about this the other day? I can't remember, but somebody was talking, one of the child Scientologists was talking about how they always thought that the celebrity children had it so great, They didn't have it that great either. They just had a little more money, maybe nicer cars, but they put up with just as much abuse. And I'm pretty sure that Marie Presley's brother talked out about that. When she was just 5, the members of Miscavige's family, her parents and her brother, were separated. She was raised by other people while her parents, well, let's just talk about that. She was raised by other people. So it's quite habitual that Scientologists will sign, or how do I say this? Hand over their children to another Scientologist family. And I think they sign legal documents like guardianship papers. Not safe for the children at all. Her parents and her brother were separated. She was raised by other people while her parents worked for the church. She wasn't allowed to speak on the phone privately with her mother. And there was a period of time when she went for 2 years without even seeing her. When she was 6 or 7, she moved to where her older brother was residing, a place called the Ranch. I just want to add my 2 cents on that. The Ranch was a paramilitary school. Not even a real school, like they mostly just were taught like indoctrination of Hubbard. The level of abuse that happened to the children in that ranch and other places is just, it's abysmal. And I honestly think, I'm not giving all these parents a pass at all, but I think some of these parents were so badly abused as well that it not only was their paternal instincts completely erased, but they were so exhausted, mind-controlled, and just beaten down. It makes it easier. It makes the parents more pliable to just do anything they want with the children. I don't say it's an excuse, but you have to wonder, how is this all possible? And narcissism too, yes, absolutely. When she was 6 or 7, she moved to where her older brother was residing, a place called the Ranch, owned by the church, and where the members of Sea Org's children were to be raised and educated, or essayed, or physically abused, or neglected. She's not specific about its location, but it was in some remote desert area in California that had once been a motel. Oh, look, another motel, guys. You know, the motels and hotels that everyone's acting like they don't exist? Well, I'll bet they didn't fucking expect for all these elder children Scientologists to start talking about their abuse, did they? The children, nearly 100 of them, did not receive a traditional education like math and science and history, but instead took Scientology courses. They were completely isolated from not only their families, but also non-Scientologists. I want to add in there, too, from what I understand, too, is that the parents are forced to pay for these bullshit Scientology courses for their children. Of course, right? This included doctors and medical care. Children were not allowed to be given fever-reducing drugs, like aspirin, or even if their temperature was over 103 degrees. The kids were put to work 6 days a week. Let's say this again in case anybody's confused about it, because it seems like people are very, very confused. The kids were put to work 6 days a week on construction jobs. By the way, this is illegal for anybody that they don't see. There are a lot of people that their little brain cells are like going all over the place, and they don't seem to be able to put 2 and 2 together that putting children like 5, 6, 7 years old to work on a construction site in America and other countries is illegal. Yeah, crazy, huh? The kids were put to work 6 days a week on construction jobs renovating the old motel. This involved landscaping and digging and using pickaxes, even in the pouring rain. I'm shocked there weren't more accidents, to be honest. Or maybe those are just covered up. I bet Rathburn and Rinder would know. Rock hauling to build stone walls was another arduous deck project. We would pick up rocks from a creek that ran nearby and put them into a pile, where another group of children would load them into a wheelbarrow and carry them to the site of the newest rock wall. Once the rocks were in place, yet another set of kids would lug around cement bags, and the older, more skilled kids would use the cement to secure the rocks in the wall. It's really sad to me. She was 7. The kids were told that the hard labor was in exchange for them being allowed to live on the ranch. That's exactly what all slave owners do. Whether it's modern day labor trafficking, adult trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, they all go by the same book. You're always in debt. We got calluses and blisters. We had cuts and bruises. Our hands lost feeling when we plunged them into the frigid water of the creek bed for rocks. When we pulled weeds from the scorched summer earth, our hands burned from the friction and stung from the nettle. The conditions we worked under would have been tough for a grown man, and yet any complaints, backflashing is the most pathetic term I've ever heard. It basically is just kind of like how a parent might say you're back-talking them, but backflashing is talking back to someone who is deemed superior to you, because you know it's a narcissistic haven/heaven. Any kind of questioning was instantly met with disciplinary action. These children got no love. Do you understand? 0 love. Some of them became psychopaths because of it. And some of them are still just dealing with the trauma, and hopefully they're out and they're going to counseling and doing a lot of things to try to deal with the levels of trauma that they were forced to endure. Lack of parenting, lack of guardianship, lack of anyone giving a rat's tail about any of these children. So that is it, guys. I have some more coming. I'm waiting on my strike to be uplifted. I don't even think I'm going to go into detail about the strike because I don't want to give anyone any too much information. But it's all good. It just gave me more time to make some more videos and record more and I'm trying to do some upgrading around here. So have a good day, a good night, wherever you guys are. Peace.